Ashley's voice carried from the kitchen. "Mom, I already switched Dad's insulin." Linda's response came immediately. "Perfect. 3 days max." I stood in the garage doorway, keys still in my hand. My continuous glucose monitor blinked on my upper arm. 28 years as a pharmacist meant I understood exactly what they'd done. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts. Not 911, the toxicology lab. Short message, hit subscribe. You're the best. Let's go. I started working at Morrison's Pharmacy when I was 23. Fresh pharmacy license. Student loans stacked higher than I wanted to think about. Type 1 diabetes that had already killed my pre-med dreams. The diabetes came first. 19 years old, sophomore year at Portland State, planning to apply to medical school. Then the symptoms hit. Constant thirst, weight loss, exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix. The emergency room doctor turned the glucose meter toward me. 484 mg/dL blinked in red digits. His pen tapped the normal range printed below, 70 to 100. Type 1 diabetes, he said. You'll need insulin for the rest of your life. I was 19. My medical school applications were already printed. My endocrinologist reviewed my MCAT scores and acceptance letters. You can do it, she said, but those 80-hour residency weeks, the overnight shifts, your blood sugar will be a variable you can't control. Pharmacy gives you structure. I switched majors. 4 years later, I had my pharmacy license and a job counting pills at Morrison's. Not the career I'd imagined, but one where I could help people manage the same condition that had changed my trajectory. I met Margaret during my first year at Morrison's. She worked in medical records at the hospital, had a laugh that made the fluorescent-lit hallways feel less sterile. We married when I was 27. 16 years together before the cancer took her. Ovarian, stage 4 by the time they found it. 3 months from diagnosis to the hospice bed in our living room, where she died holding my hand. 43 years old and alone in a house that still smelled like her perfume. I met Linda at a community health fair the following year, where I was doing free blood pressure screenings. She was 39, recently divorced, raising 7-year-old Ashley on a dental receptionist's salary. Her ex-husband had left her for a younger colleague. The settlement barely covered first and last month's rent on a studio apartment. We started dating, coffee shops, weekend hikes, dinners where Ashley colored on placemats while Linda and I talked about starting over. 6 months later, I asked them to move into my house. 3 bedrooms, small yard, room for Ashley to have her own space. Linda stared at the house keys in my palm. Ashley gets her own room. Her voice cracked. I'd been on a pull-out couch for 8 months. She turned away, shoulders shaking. I enrolled Ashley in private school. $18,000 annually, but the public school in our district had overcrowded classrooms and outdated textbooks. She deserved better. For the first 6 years, we were stable. Ashley graduated high school. Linda's dental practice promoted her to office manager. I made partner at Morrison's. Then Ashley turned 23. Ashley launched her first business at 23. A boutique clothing line funded with $30,000 from her grandmother's inheritance. Lasted 8 months before the inventory sat unsold and the website went dark. Then, the meal prep service. Linda convinced me Ashley just needed to find her passion. 2 months of delivering pre-portioned meals before Ashley decided she hated waking up at 5 in the morning. The life coaching certification program came next. $3,000 for online courses Ashley never finished. The login credentials expired after she completed 2 modules. I wrote the checks, signed the enrollment forms, cleared space in the garage for unsold inventory. Never asked when she'd pay me back. 6 months ago, my endocrinologist found concerning numbers in my blood work. Kidney function declining, early signs of neuropathy in my feet. Complications from 33 years of diabetes management. Dr. Lindstrom closed my chart. Kidney functions declining. We need to discuss dialysis planning. That afternoon, I called my insurance agent. The premium increase hurt. Extra overtime shifts for 6 months, but Linda would need security if my health failed. I signed the paperwork for $850,000 without telling her. My vintage insulin collection sat in a glass cabinet in my home office. Glass syringes from the 1920s, when insulin was extracted from animal pancreases and diabetics measured doses by eye. Vials from the 1940s with hand-typed labels. Educational pamphlets showing how far treatment had progressed. Each piece represented lives saved. Before 1921, type 1 diabetes meant death within months. Then Banting and best isolated insulin, and suddenly children who would have died lived to adulthood. I'd given the same speech to 15,000 patients over 29 years. Your medication is your lifeline. Treat it like your house keys. Know exactly where it is. Check it before you need it. Never let someone else control access. I believed I was building a family, providing the stability Linda and Ashley deserved after the chaos of divorce and financial struggle. I'd never seen my chronic illness as a burden, just a manageable condition requiring disciplined medication management. The same advice I'd given every diabetic patient who walked through Morrison's doors. The disrespect started small. 2 years ago, Linda began comparing my work to her college roommate's husband. Tech executive, 6-figure bonuses, vacation home in Bend. Linda scrolled through Instagram photos of Italian villas. Pharmacist is stable, she said. But don't you ever want more? I didn't. 29 years counting pills had given me purpose, helped 15,000 diabetic patients manage the same condition I lived with daily. Ashley's contempt showed differently. Eye rolls when I checked my continuous glucose monitor at family dinners. Heavy sighs when I excused myself to inject insulin before meals. My chronic illness wasn't a manageable condition requiring disciplined care. It was an inconvenience that embarrassed her in front of friends. I noticed everything, the patterns, the timing, the careful coordination. I said nothing. The pattern started 8 weeks earlier. I should have recognized it then. 8 weeks ago, I found Ashley in my home office. She stood at my desk, file drawer open, papers spread across the surface. Looking for stamps, she said, not meeting my eyes. The drawer contained tax returns, mortgage documents, insurance paperwork. No stamps. I nodded and left her alone. The next day, Linda charged $400 at Nordstrom. A jacket she wore once, then $600 at the salon for highlights and extensions. Then $350 for an athleisure set she never took to the gym. Then another $350 on shoes she left in the box. All on my credit card. No questions asked, no permission requested. I pulled up the statement at my pharmacy desk during lunch. $1,700 in 3 days. That evening, I found her in the kitchen, wine glass in hand. The spending's gotten heavy. Can we discuss larger purchases before charging them? Linda set down her wine glass. Her hand didn't shake. I've given up 9 years waiting for you to provide the life you promised. I deserve better than watching you count pills for $8 above minimum wage. $8 above minimum wage. That's how she saw my 28-year career, my pharmacy partnership, my professional expertise. I walked away, didn't argue, didn't defend myself. 2 weeks later, Ashley pitched another business idea over dinner. Sustainable athleisure brand. Eco-friendly fabrics. Influencer marketing strategy. I just need startup capital, she said, sliding a handwritten budget across the table. $50,000 should cover initial inventory and 6 months of marketing. The handwritten budget showed Instagram follower projections and vague marketing synergy notes. No customer research, no cost analysis, no explanation of why sustainable athleisure would succeed when her boutique clothing line hadn't. "I can't risk our mortgage and retirement for another business attempt," I said. "You haven't completed a single venture." Ashley's face went red. "You have no idea what it's like watching everyone else succeed while you keep us dependent. $50,000 is nothing to you." "It's everything to me." "Nothing to me? I'd worked overtime shifts for 6 months to afford the life insurance premium increase. I'd refinanced the house twice to cover her grandmother's $30,000 lost on the boutique line." Linda touched Ashley's hand, whispered something I couldn't hear. They left the table together. I sat alone with Ashley's budget, numbers that didn't add up to anything except another failed dream. The alliance revealed itself in small moments after that, whispered conversations stopping when I entered rooms. Linda asking detailed questions about my medication routine she'd never cared about before. "Are you sure you're taking the right dose, honey?" Ashley volunteered to pick up my prescriptions at the pharmacy. Helpful gesture from someone who'd never offered assistance with anything. I noticed Linda's DVR filling with true crime episodes. Women who killed their husbands. Over 200 episodes saved. Organized by method. Poisoning. Staged accidents. Insurance fraud. 200 episodes, I said one evening, scrolling through the titles. All about women who killed their husbands. Linda didn't laugh. Didn't make the usual joke about guilty pleasures. Just stared at the screen. 3 weeks ago, I overheard them in Ashley's bedroom. I'd come home early from the pharmacy, walked past her door on the way to my office. "I think Brian secretly enjoys keeping us dependent," Ashley said. "It's a control thing. Mom deserves so much better. And there's a really simple solution if we're brave enough." I stood in the hallway, listened to Linda's response. "We'd have to be careful, very careful. Financial frustration. Normal complaints about the provider who wasn't providing enough. I'd heard worse from patients whose insurance denied coverage. I dismissed it as venting. Normal mother-daughter complaints about money. 2 weeks later, everything changed. I thought I understood the difference between family conflict and genuine danger. I was wrong. The next afternoon, standing in my garage with keys still in my hand, I learned exactly how wrong. I stood in the garage doorway, keys still in my hand. My continuous glucose monitor blinked on my upper arm. Linda's voice shifted to something businesslike. "It's already done, Ashley. He'll never suspect." "Why would he? I'm his devoted wife who refills his prescriptions and reminds him to take his medication. He trusts me with his life. That's the beautiful part. He trusts me with his life." I moved closer to the interior door, slowly. My pharmacy training kicked in before the emotion could. Document everything. Timestamp. Witness statements. Chain of custody. Ashley's voice carried that excited lilt she got when pitching business ideas. "I already switched them this morning. The 3 vials in the door shelf, right? Took them to CVS and got saline solution that looks exactly the same. He'll never notice. Mom, he trusts me to pick up his prescription sometimes. This is gonna work. 3 vials. Door shelf. CVS saline solution." I checked my watch. 3:47 p.m. I'd remember that number for the rest of my life. Linda again. "Without insulin, blood sugar climbs into dangerous territory within 12 hours. Diabetic ketoacidosis starts by day 2. By day 3, he's comatose or dead. I call 911 when he collapses. Play the devastated wife. The paramedics see a diabetic in crisis. Nobody questions it. I checked my glucose monitor. 27 mg/dL, normal range. The shaking wasn't medical. Ashley giggled. Finally, I can afford the athleisure brand. The insurance money covers everything. Startup capital, marketing budget, 6 months of runway. $850,000. I'd increased that policy 6 months ago, worked overtime to cover the premium. To protect her if my kidneys failed. They were discussing my death like a business plan. Timeline, logistics, financial projections. I moved backward, one step. Another, the concrete floor was smooth under my shoes. No sound. Into my car, closed the door without slamming it, started the engine, pulled out of the driveway. Normal speed, normal everything. 3 blocks away, I parked at a coffee shop. Walked inside. Ordered black coffee I wouldn't drink. Took a corner booth where nobody could overhear. My pharmaceutical training overrode everything else. Not panic. Protocol. Saline looks identical to insulin in the vial. Same clarity. Similar viscosity to the untrained eye. But protein analysis would show the difference within hours. Insulin glargine has specific molecular markers. Sodium chloride 0.9% doesn't. Without insulin, my blood sugar would spike. The continuous glucose monitor would alert me first. High blood sugar warnings within 12 hours. Dangerous levels by 24. But if I ignored the alerts, trusted the medication in my refrigerator, kept injecting saline thinking it was insulin, my body would start producing ketones. Toxic acids. Diabetic ketoacidosis. 72 hours from substitution to coma. Linda had done her research. I pulled out my phone. Called Morrison's Pharmacy. Jen answered on the second ring. Morrison's, this is Jen. It's Brian. I need to take a personal day tomorrow. Family emergency. Everything okay? Jen's tone changed. I'll explain later. Can you cover my morning shift? Of course. Take care of yourself. I hung up. Opened my contacts. Found Dr. Ramesh Patel's number. Dr. Patel ran a toxicology lab. We'd worked together on medication error investigations. He understood chain of custody protocols. He answered after 3 rings. Patel. Ramesh, it's Brian Sutton. I have a quality control concern about some insulin vials. Need urgent testing. What kind of concern? Protein content analysis. Specific gravity. pH balance. Chain of custody protocol. Silence for 2 seconds. Then, his voice changed. Professional. Measured. How urgent? I can bring samples tomorrow morning. First thing. I'll clear my schedule. Brian, is everything all right? I'll explain when I see you. Just need the testing done properly. Documentation at every step. Understood. 9 a.m. tomorrow. I ended the call, set the phone face down on the table. My coffee had gone cold. 29 years as a pharmacist. 15,000 diabetic patients counseled. The same speech every time. Your medication is your lifeline. Treat it like your house keys. Know exactly where it is. Check it before you need it. Never let someone else control access. I'd trusted my wife with my life. She'd handed that trust to her daughter like a murder weapon. I sat in the booth for 10 minutes. Watched people order coffee, check phones, live normal lives. My hands stopped shaking. Something colder settled in. Clearer. I could see the next 72 hours like a map. Every move, every piece of evidence I'd need. They thought I'd used the tampered insulin. Thought I'd inject saline for 3 days while my blood sugar climbed into lethal territory. Thought I'd collapse, confused and dying, while Linda called 911 with practiced grief in her voice. They didn't know I'd overheard them. Didn't know I understood what they'd done. Didn't know that 28 years of pharmaceutical expertise had become my survival weapon. I had 72 hours before they expected me dead. I had everything I needed to make sure they were the ones who lost everything instead. I parked 3 blocks from the house and waited. Linda's car pulled out at 4:15, Ashley in the passenger seat. Gym bags visible through the rear window. Their Tuesday routine, 90 minutes at the fitness center across town. I counted to 300 in the parking lot. At 3:01, I started the engine. The garage door opener hummed. I pulled in, Cut the engine, sat for 10 seconds listening to the house settle. Empty, silent, except for the refrigerator's compressor cycling in the kitchen. Medication error investigations. Quality control protocols. Chain of custody documentation. I'd run these procedures thousands of times at Morrison's. Now I was the patient. My own medication. The evidence. I retrieved my work kit from the trunk. Sterile nitrile gloves. Pharmaceutical evidence bags with tamper-proof seals. A small medical cooler with temperature logging capability. My phone for photographic documentation. The kitchen was exactly as I'd left it that morning. Coffee mug in the sink. Linda's vitamin bottles on the counter. Generic multivitamin, calcium carbonate, omega-3 capsules. Nothing requiring prescription monitoring. The refrigerator door covered in Ashley's vision board printouts and grocery lists. I opened the door. The insulin vials sat on the designated shelf, right side, 3 units lined up where they'd been for 6 months. My hand didn't shake as I pulled out my phone. First photograph. Wide shot showing the vials in context. Refrigerator interior. December 14th, 4:23 p.m., visible in the corner. Second photograph. Close-up of each vial showing lot numbers, expiration dates, manufacturer labels. Third photograph. Serial numbers on the bottom of each container. 3 vials. 3 photographs. 3 pieces of evidence. December 14th, 4:23 p.m., documenting 3 insulin glargine vials from home refrigerator. Vial 1, lot number J7829, expiration, March 2026. Vial 2, lot number J7829, same expiration. Vial 3, lot number J7830, expiration, April 2026. The gloves went on. Sterile technique, same as handling Schedule II controlled substances at the pharmacy. I lifted the first vial, held it to the light. Clear liquid. Correct viscosity to visual inspection. Indistinguishable from legitimate insulin without laboratory analysis. Each vial went into its own evidence bag. I sealed them, signed across the tamper-proof strip, added date and time. The medical cooler maintained 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, same temperature range as the refrigerator. The internal logger would timestamp any temperature deviation. The previous afternoon, I'd retrieved 3 replacement vials from Morrison's backup inventory. Same manufacturer, same lot numbers where possible, same expiration dates. I positioned them exactly where the originals had been, right side of the shelf, evenly spaced. The refrigerator door seal clicked shut with the same soft hiss it made every morning. Linda and Ashley would see nothing different. I closed the refrigerator, stripped off the gloves, packed everything into the cooler. 12 minutes total. Professional efficiency. Friday morning at 9 sharp, I handed Dr. Patel the cooler. Manufacturing defect concern. Need protein content analysis, specific gravity, pH balance. Full chain of custody protocol. He logged the samples into his system. Temperature maintained throughout transport. Logger shows consistent 2 to 8 Celsius. I'll have preliminary results in 48 hours. Written report with full documentation by Friday. I spent those 48 hours performing normalcy. Checked my continuous glucose monitor at the usual times. Took my insulin doses on schedule, using the backup supply I'd placed in the refrigerator. Discussed dinner plans with Linda. Listened to Ashley's latest business podcast recommendations. They watched me, not obviously, but I noticed. Linda found reasons to be in the same room when I checked my monitor. Ashley's eyes tracked me when she thought I was focused on dinner prep. By Wednesday evening, Linda's questions grew more pointed. "Are you sure you're taking your medication correctly, honey? You seem off." I wasn't off. I was surviving, using legitimate insulin while they waited for me to collapse. Ashley kept glancing at my glucose monitor when she thought I wasn't looking. At dinner, Wednesday, she suggested I looked pale. Thursday morning, mentioned I seemed tired, fishing for symptoms that weren't there. My monitor showed perfect control. 100 mg before breakfast, 25 after lunch, 11.8 before bed. The backup insulin worked exactly as prescribed. Their confusion showed by day 2. Linda's questions grew more pointed. Are you sure you're feeling all right? You look different somehow. Friday morning, Dr. Patel calls. Results are back. You'll want to see this in person. His office smelled like antiseptic and printer toner. The spectrometry equipment hummed in the adjacent lab. Fluorescent lights reflected off white tile floors. He spread the analysis across his desk. Graphs showing protein content, specific gravity measurements, pH balance readings. All 3 vials contain 0.9% sodium chloride solution, he said. Saline, medical grade, visually identical to insulin glargine. But protein analysis shows complete absence of insulin molecules. 0 therapeutic content. I stared at the graphs. Scientific certainty in colored lines and numerical values. Insulin glargine has a molecular weight of 603 Daltons. Sodium chloride, 5844. The spectrometry graphs showed the difference in stark black lines. Manufacturing defect? He asked. I'll handle it directly. Need written documentation with full chain of custody records. He printed the report, signed it, handed me the file folder. I walked to my car. The file folder weighed maybe 4 ounces. Inside, 3 pages that would destroy Linda and Ashley's lives. Linda and Ashley had weaponized my chronic illness, replaced my life-sustaining medication with salt water, planned my death with a 72-hour timeline. Now I had evidence that would satisfy any courtroom. I pulled out my phone and searched for the police department's non-emergency number. I parked in the visitor lot at Portland Police Headquarters. The file folder sat on my passenger seat. 4 ounces of paper that would send my wife and stepdaughter to prison. Detective Maria Hernandez waited by the metal detectors, badge clipped to her belt. Her handshake was firm, professional. Mr. Sutton, let's talk in the conference room. I followed her down a hallway that smelled like burnt coffee and floor wax. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The conference room had a table, 6 chairs, and a recording device mounted on the wall. She gestured to a seat, walked me through it. I opened the folder, spread the toxicology reports across the table. Then the photographs, 3 vials, lot numbers visible. Then the chain of custody logs. Then the timeline, Tuesday morning, substitution. Thursday afternoon, discovery. Life insurance paperwork showing $850,000. My wife and stepdaughter replaced my insulin with saline solution. I overheard them discussing the timeline. 3 days from substitution to coma. They planned to call 911 when I collapsed, collect the insurance money. Detective Hernandez studied the lab reports. Her jaw tightened. My father's diabetic. I know what happens without insulin. She pulled the photographs closer. You documented everything. 29 years as a pharmacist. Chain of custody protocols are standard practice for medication error investigations. These reports would satisfy any courtroom. She looked up. You want to press charges? Attempted murder. Financial motive. Look, premeditation. Yes. She nodded slowly. Oregon's a one-party consent state for recording. You can document the confrontation legally. Get their admissions on tape before we move in. You'll be there. Give me a time. I'll have officers positioned outside. You get them talking, we come through the door. I checked my watch. Tonight, 7 p.m. They'll both be home. I gave Detective Hernandez my house key that afternoon, told her exactly when to enter. 7:15 p.m., after I'd presented the evidence. Linda and Ashley sat on the living room couch. The Christmas tree blinked in the corner. Family photos lined the walls. Normal domestic space about to become crime scene. I sat in the armchair facing them. My phone was in my shirt pocket, recording light barely visible. I sent samples of my insulin to Dr. Patel's toxicology lab for analysis. The results came back today. Linda's expression shifted. Concern that didn't reach her eyes. "Are you feeling all right, honey?" Sodium chloride, 0.9% solution. Saline. Not a single unit of insulin glargine in any of the 3 vials. Color drained from Ashley's face. Linda's posture stiffened. "Do you understand what that means?" My voice stayed level. "Clinical. 3 vials. Door shelf. CVS saline solution. 72 hours from diabetic ketoacidosis. 3 days from a coma. You replaced my life-sustaining medication with salt water." Ashley's hand flew to her mouth. She started crying, stammering about the CVS, about Tuesday morning. "You switched the vials," I said, watching her face. "Took them Tuesday morning. Got saline solution that looks exactly the same." Her tears came harder. Stammered denials that confirmed everything. Linda stood up. Color drained from her face. "You have no proof we did anything. This is ridiculous." I lifted the lab reports from the folder beside my chair, set them on the coffee table. Then the photographs. Then the chain of custody documentation, toxicology analysis showing complete absence of insulin molecules. Photographic evidence with timestamps. Chain of custody records that would satisfy any courtroom. And this conversation is being recorded. Oregon's a one-party consent state. Linda's face twisted. Rage replacing the mask she'd worn for 9 years. "You can't." The front door opened. Detective Hernandez entered with 2 uniformed officers. "Belinda Sutton, Ashley Brennan. You're under arrest for attempted murder." Ashley's legs buckled. She grabbed the couch arm, tears streaming down her face. Linda stood frozen as the detective read them their rights. Medication tampering is legally equivalent to poisoning. You replaced life-sustaining treatment with an inert substance, knowing it would cause death within 72 hours. The uniformed officers moved forward with handcuffs. Ashley's hands shook as they cuffed her. Linda remained rigid, silent fury radiating from every muscle. As they turned her toward the door, Linda looked at me. Her voice was ice, pure venom. "You were supposed to be dead. Not denial, not claims of misunderstanding. Just raw admission that their plan had failed and I had survived." My phone captured every word. Detective Hernandez glanced at me as they led Linda and Ashley out. Something like respect in her expression. I'd used the same professional expertise they'd dismissed as boring to ensure they'd spend the next decade in prison. Detective Hernandez closed the door behind them. The house went silent except for the refrigerator's compressor cycling in the kitchen. I sat in the armchair and stopped the recording. 6 weeks after the arrests, I sat in the gallery while the prosecution built their case. The courtroom smelled like floor polish and recycled air. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Linda and Ashley sat at the defense table in conservative clothes that didn't match their usual style. Linda's highlighted hair had grown out, showing gray roots she'd never let show before. Ashley wore minimal makeup, her hair styled simply. The modest dress looked nothing like her usual designer athleisure. The prosecutor called Dr. Patel first. He took the witness stand, adjusted his glasses, and explained the protein analysis. The spectrometry revealed complete absence of insulin glargine molecules. Molecular weight of insulin glargine is 6,063 daltons. Sodium chloride is 58.44. The mass spectrometry graph showed a flat line where insulin's characteristic peak should appear at 6,063 daltons. The difference is unmistakable. The prosecutor held up the lab reports. Could this be manufacturing defect or degradation? No. Insulin degradation leaves molecular fragments. These samples contained pure saline solution. Someone replaced the contents deliberately. Ashley's hands twisted in her lap. Linda stared straight ahead. Dr. Sarah Lindstrom, my endocrinologist for 15 years, testified next. She explained diabetic ketoacidosis to the jury like she was teaching medical students. Without insulin, blood glucose rises rapidly. The body starts breaking down fat for energy, producing ketones, toxic acids. Within 24 hours, Mr. Sutton would experience nausea, vomiting, confusion. By 48 hours, severe dehydration and altered mental status. 72 hours, coma or death. Would he have survived if he'd used the tampered insulin? No. The timeline is medically certain, 3 days maximum. The prosecutor showed the jury my continuous glucose monitor data. Perfect control throughout the week. They expected me to die. 100 before breakfast, 25 after lunch, 11:08 before bed. Mr. Sutton's glucose remained stable because he was using legitimate insulin from his backup supply, not the saline his wife and stepdaughter had substituted. Jennifer took the stand wearing her pharmacy technician uniform. 12 years of working together showed in how she described my protocols without notes. Brian is obsessive about medication safety, she said. He double-checks every prescription, counsels every diabetic patient about proper storage and administration. He would never make errors with his own insulin management. The prosecutor nodded. In your professional opinion, could this substitution have been accidental? No. Brian stores his insulin in a dedicated refrigerator shelf. Same position for 6 years. Someone deliberately replaced those vials. The defense attorney tried to suggest I might have confused my medication. Jennifer shut it down immediately. Brian has managed type 1 diabetes for 33 years. He's a licensed pharmacist who has counseled 15,000 diabetic patients. The idea that he wouldn't notice his insulin was switched is absurd. The timeline evidence came next. The prosecutor displayed Ashley's bank records showing when she discovered the $850,000 policy. 6 weeks before the substitution, Linda's credit card statements followed. $400 at Nordstrom, $600 at the salon, $350 for athleisure. Spending that escalated immediately after Ashley's snooping. Then the business pitch rejection. My refusal to fund her sustainable athleisure brand. The rejection came on October 23rd, 3 weeks before the substitution. The prosecutor played Linda's DVR recordings. 243 true crime episodes about women who killed their husbands. Organized by method. The jury watched episode titles scroll across the screen. Poisoned for profit. The Black Widow's insurance scheme. Death by medication tampering. The defendant wasn't just watching these programs for entertainment, the prosecutor said. She was studying methodology. Ashley's vision boards were entered as evidence. 17 poster boards covered with magazine cutouts and luxury items she'd buy when her business succeeded. The prosecutor spread them across the evidence table. These demonstrate the defendant's pattern of entitlement without effort. 4 failed business ventures, no completed projects, but constant demands for funding and resentment when refused. The recorded confrontation played last. My voice explaining the toxicology results. Ashley's stammering admission about CBS and Tuesday morning, Linda's cold fury. Then, her final words as the police entered. You were supposed to be dead. The jury heard it twice. On the second playback, Ashley's shoulders shook. Linda stared at the table, jaw clenched. The defense had no response. The jury deliberated 4 hours before returning with their verdict. Attempted murder with special circumstances. Financial gain motive. Premeditation. Linda received 15 years in Oregon State Correctional Institution. Ashley got 12 due to her age and the fact that Linda had planned the timeline while Ashley executed the physical substitution, though the prosecutor had argued her physical execution of the substitution warranted equal sentencing. Oregon's Slayer statute voided their rights to my life insurance automatically. They couldn't profit from attempting to murder me. The $850,000 they planned to split would go to my brother's children instead. The case made regional news. The Oregonian ran the headline above photos of Linda and Ashley in handcuffs. Pharmacist's evidence convicts wife in Insulin murder plot. Their names, their photos. Their betrayal became public record. Linda's college roommate blocked her on social media. Ashley's friends stopped visiting. Their extended family knew exactly what they'd attempted. They'd wanted my money and my death. Instead, they lost everything: freedom, reputation, relationships, future. My pharmaceutical expertise, the career Linda had dismissed as boring, became the evidence that convicted them. If my story matters to you, tap like and share your reaction. I moved into the Craftsman bungalow 18 months after the arrests, 6 months after the trial ended. The Portland house sold in 3 days. Too many memories of betrayal in those walls. The new place sits 2 miles from Morrison's Pharmacy. 1 bedroom, hardwood floors, south-facing kitchen windows. Mine, just mine. My vintage Insulin collection fills the built-in shelves in the living room. No more hiding it in a home office. The 1920s glass syringes catch morning light. The 1940s animal-derived insulin vials stand in rows behind museum-quality glass. Last month, I acquired a 1923 vial from the University of Toronto. One of the earliest commercial batches. The glass is thicker than modern vials. Slightly warped. The hand-typed label has faded to sepia. Before this, type 1 diabetes meant death within months. After, children lived to adulthood. My medication sits in a locked medical-grade refrigerator I installed after the trial. Only I have the access code. I pick up every prescription myself now. No exceptions. The life insurance policy stayed active. $850,000. My brother Jason's children are beneficiaries. Family who value me for reasons that have nothing to do with money. Jennifer noticed yesterday that I smile more. She's right. The weight of living with people who wanted me dead has lifted. I've started dating again, cautiously. Dating feels strange after 9 years of deception. Background checks before second dates. But I'm trying. Providing for others doesn't guarantee their loyalty. I learned that lesson at a cost I'll never forget. I saved my own life. Once by recognizing their timeline. Once by documenting their crime. 28 years counting pills gave me both skills. Some families are built on blood. Others on showing up when it matters. And some on nothing but greed in a wedding dress. 3 days. That's how long I had. The mask came off at 71 hours, 53 minutes. Close enough to remember. Far enough to survive. Last week, I bought a new lock for the medication refrigerator. Biometric. Only my fingerprint opens it. Small thing. But it means I sleep through the night now.